The Alin Donan by Cade Hentz.
When was it built? The Alin Donan Castle, also known as the Island of Donan, was built around the 1100s and was finished around the 1200s. It was built for the Jacobites' uprising, which was wars between Britain, Scotland, and Ireland. This castle was for the protection of the Jacobites, who were people who believed in Jacobitism. Jacobitism was a political movement in Britain, Scotland, France, and Ireland. The people were trying to restore the Roman Catholic Stuart James II. Where was it built? The Alin Donan Castle was built on a small tidal island where the Loch Duch, Loch Long, and Loch Alsh meet. This island is located on the Highlands of Scotland. The island is also located near the Plockton village, which was once voted the most beautiful village in Scotland. How long did it take to build? The Alin Donan Castle took about 100 years to build. The castle started getting built around the 1100s and finished around the 1200s. Also, having a castle on an island and on a lake is good, but there are challenges to building one. The first challenge was getting the materials to the island because back then they didn't have the bridge to walk on, so they did it by boat. Also, the island isn't the smoothest island. In fact, it was very rocky. Who was the architect? I couldn't find anything on the architects, but I did find additional info on the castle. In the 12th century, Alexander II built the first castle. Alexander II was the King of Scots from 1214 to 1249. Also, he had a son who carried on the legacy of being King of Scots till 1286. Alexander II died when he was sailing and he caught a fever in 1249. Architectural classification. I tried to find a classification, but I couldn't find any information on it, so I made an assumption from my perspective. I think the architectural classification is Gothic because how rough it is and the time it was built. Who lived in the castle? In 1719, the castle was held by 46 Spanish soldiers, but they didn't last long. Thing is, they got bombarded on that very year by 3 English frigates because the English wanted more land for the Jacobite uprising. The Spanish soldiers that were alive surrendered and the English set fire to the castle and exploded it. The castle had some major flaws. In fact, it barely looks like a castle. Luckily, in 1912, a man named Lieutenant Colonel MacRae Gilstrap bought the castle and proceeded to fix it up. He finished in 1932 and reopened it on that very year. Fun fact about John MacRae Gilstrap, he was a part of the attack on the castle, but now his family still owns it. What famous battles happened at the castle? There were a couple attacks at this castle and it got messed up over the years, but luckily John MacRae Gilstrap fixed it up. In 1504, the Alin Donan was attacked by the Earl of Huntly, and I couldn't find the reason why, but the castle didn't take too much damage, and the Earl of Huntly left. This made them upgrade the castle with different features, such as a horn-shaped extension, hexagonal bastion, and artillery was installed. The second and final attack was by the Jacobite Rebellion, and at the time there was a small Spanish force, which was only 46 people, to lock down a 2-acre castle. Then the Royal Navy bombarded the castle and the Spanish soldiers surrendered, and the Royal Navy set the castle fire and blew most of it up. How was the castle used? The Alin Donan was used for the Jacobites' uprising, which were wars in Britain, Scotland, and Ireland. The uprising occurred between 1688 and 1746, and the people believed Catholic James IX should be restored to be king again. All in all, the castle was used for the Jacobites' protection. Also, from the last topic, you may remember the castle was used for protecting the 46 Spanish soldiers until they were hit by a bombardment. What are the castle's strengths and weaknesses? The castle has a lot of strengths compared to weaknesses. First off, because the castle is on an island. The island is great because it's really hard for land attacks, and the only way to get to it is by boat. The other thing is the castle takes up most of the land, and even when the river is down, which occasionally it does, it's very hard to walk on because it's very mushy. Really, the only weaknesses is if you have a big ship that can fire heavy shots, the castle may be destroyed, but they could also answer with multiple cannon shots. Is the castle still standing today? The castle is still standing today because it was fixed up in 1912 by Lieutenant Colonel MacRae Gilstrap. The castle was never destroyed completely, but kept on getting a beating until one day the Royal Navy exploded it. The Royal Navy attack basically did most of the damage because after the Spanish soldiers surrendered, they exploded most of it. The castle is used as a tourist attraction today, and you can walk around and in the castle. There are bus and boat tours around the Alin Donan. Famous historical events happened at the castle. There weren't any meetings or discussions at the castle. It wasn't that kind of castle because this castle was mainly for defense against enemies. The castle wouldn't be good for meetings anyways because it is in the middle of the river, so every time they'd have to take a little boat to the island. And while no one is watching, the castle can easily get rocked. The only thing that was really a historical event was when the Royal Navy attacked the castle in 1719. Fun facts. The Alien Donan appeared in multiple movies. The movies the castle was in was The Master of Ballantrae, The Golden Age, Highlander, Loch Ness, and The World Is Not Enough. Also, the castle was one of the only castles in Scotland with a left-handed spiral staircase. I made an assumption from my perspective. I think the architectural classification